Hi, this is Dan Sullivan. I'd like to welcome you to the Multiplier Mindset Podcast. So the game changer transformation that I'm going to talk about here, Ken Arlen, this is a great pleasure because I probably know Ken. There's a handful of clients since I started coaching in the program that I know so well as Ken, because Ken, first of all, is kind of unique in strategic coach history, but he's really an amazing musician himself, and he's created really quite an extraordinary music company, and he gives the figures. In his interview here, he actually talks about where he was when he came into the program and where he is now. But I would say the big thing is that it really points out what I often say about anybody who comes into the program. They have a specialty, but their specialty isn't them. So Ken is a great musician, he has a great music company. But the fact is, Ken is an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs are individuals who simply take resources that they have available to a higher level of productivity. So Ken is in the stratosphere compared with where he was when he came to his very first workshop, and Ken was actually the very first person to sign up for a strategic coach when we started the program in Chicago. But the thing that Ken really had to go after, he knew how to do his business. And if he had a sense of confidence and clarity about what he was doing, he would always grow. And I should say that Ken is in the Game Changer program now in Strategic Coach. And the ideas he has for expanding his impact are not just in Chicago. He's way beyond Chicago now, throughout the United States and even overseas, with his game-changing projects, are really extraordinary to hear how he thinks about changing the entire game of music throughout the United States. But the big thing is he put the emphasis. Ken did not have any free time, and as a result of not having any free time as a musician, certainly not satisfying free time, it held him back, because every time he grew as a company, it was putting more strain on him. It was putting more strain on his relationship with Nancy, who great person in his life and great partner, lifetime partner, but his two children who are very talented. And he talks about when he came into the program, they were 4 and 9, and I've known them since they were 4 and 9. And his son is now a professor at a major university, and his daughter has a complete independent music career of her own in New York City. But the big thing he puts is that he used the program during the first 3 or 4 years to actually get a handle on free time, so that he was working less, far, far less, by getting who's in, who did a lot of the hows that he did previously. But the other thing is he just started being present at home, and the great milestone for him showing his progress was taking a whole month and going to Europe with Nancy and with Gordon Jesse. It's such a pleasure when I hear those stories. I have to tell you that I really love the business success stories, but the ones that I think are the more lasting transformations that our entrepreneurs actually pull off while in the program is actually creating balance in their lives and having a personal life that has just as many dimensions in it as their growing business career. So, wonderful story, and it's such a pleasure for me to comment on it.
My name is Ken Arlen. I've been in Strategic Coach since 1992 for 26 years. My business is live music for special events. The name of my company is Arlen Music Productions. I've always been drawn to music. I've always been a musician. I started playing music in 5th grade. I went to college. I got a liberal arts education. I was actually pre-med. And I came from a family where music wasn't really reinforced as a viable career path. But I was very much drawn to music. And it took me a while to realize that. It took me until I was about 1 or 2 years out of college to realize that this was my calling. So then it was just more a question of how I was going to make it work. And I was willing to take on the responsibilities to be a leader, to make things happen for myself so that I could be successful in music and pick up all the skills that I needed to pick up. When I entered Strategic Coach, my kids were young. My daughter was 4 and my son was 9. I was very much the rugged individualist. I had started to expand my company. I had 2 employees, so I wasn't doing everything myself. I had one band. I had started a second band. I had 10 full-time musicians that were working for the company. And my life was definitely controlled by work. I wasn't getting the kind of free time I would have liked to have had. Music business can be very exhausting and energetically draining. So I found myself mostly in that state of mind. In my business, I'm working on weekends almost always. So I had to give up Saturday nights. I gave up a lot of Sundays, a lot of Fridays. And that's when my family would have their time. So I was missing a lot of events that might normally happen that most parents would attend, and trying to make up for it on, let's say, a Monday. But oftentimes I'd be coming out of a weekend very exhausted from performing. So it definitely had an impact on my family life before I came into Strategic Coach. I remember talking to my sister, who had been in the program for about a year before, telling her that I felt like I was hitting a ceiling and not really growing due to complexity that's generated by my business. And she said, "Oh, I think you'd be perfect for Strategic Coach. You should meet Dan Sullivan." He happened to be doing a talk in Chicago that I attended, and that's the beginning of a very fruitful relationship. One of the big lures at first for bringing people into Strategic Coach was the concept, the time system. I remember the big aha moment with Dan was that you take the free time up front so that you go into your life from a rejuvenated point of view. So coming into Strategic Coach, learning first about the time system and the importance of free time and the importance to operate from a state of rejuvenation was really a new way of thinking for me. Also, the idea of consolidating all of your focus time was a new way of thinking, and compartmentalizing your buffer time. Totally new way of thinking. I think up until then, the way I thought about the time system was that every day was pretty much the same. Work hard. If you can find a little play time, you would play. But every day was pretty much the same. So by compartmentalizing time, really added a structure. The concept that your free time is totally free, 24 hours, not taking a phone call, not being distracted in any way by the business, was really new for me, something that I had to implement at the beginning. About 4 years into the program, I took my kids out of school for the month of April, and we did a 1-month trip to Europe. And it was great because it was very unstructured. We flew into Paris, we flew out of Milan, but for 1 month, every day was a creation. And you can kind of do that in Europe in the month of April. So we rented a car and we drove, and if we came to a place that we were interested in, we'd stay a couple extra days. And it was an amazing educational experience. It also taught both my children to have the confidence and the freedom to travel the world, which they've done extensively since then. And it was very much a bonding experience for my family. Since then, we've taken many, many trips like that as they grew up. So just honoring the importance of free time with the family and making that a priority. We've taken trips to China. We've taken Baltic trips to Russia. We've taken a trip to Norway, Scotland. So these family trips as the kids were growing up were really important. They were educational. And I don't think I would have honored that kind of free time and realized the importance of it without being in Strategic Coach program. I think you could almost characterize my children as Strategic Coach kids. They grew up in the Strategic Coach atmosphere. They benefited from the lifestyle that I think you develop by being in Strategic Coach. When I first came into the program, I had a band, 10 musicians. I had 2 employees. I was just starting another band and maybe doing 60, 70 performances a year. And my largest check was probably about $10,000. And I look at my business today, and I have 5 dance bands, another 7 bands of different varying types of ensembles. We call them our specialty bands. I have a company that employs 75 musicians who make their living from being involved in our company. We work with probably about another 200 independent contractors on a regular basis. I have 10 employees, and we produce over 600 events a year, and our largest check is over $100,000. Had you told me that my company would look like this and I would get these kind of results 26 years later, it would be, at that time, hard to visualize that, especially coming into it as the rugged individualist and imagining that I'd have to do everything myself. I become a very good delegator by being in strategic coach. I think growth is going to be a guarantee, but I also think that balance in your life is going to be a guarantee. And I think at the end of the day, when we write the final chapter and you look back, the balance is going to be more important. So what life has become about is purpose, giving back, sharing wisdom, contributing to the larger global community, being a game changer in some large way, collaborating in some larger way, and helping other people achieve their goals as well. And I think that mindset gets perpetuated by being in strategic coach program as many years as I have.
Ken's great statement there is the relationship between growth and balance in an entrepreneur's life. And he knows how to grow his business. But the skill and the capability that Ken and thousands of other entrepreneurs is that they had to learn the capability of balance. And that's really what Strategic Coach does. Combining two concepts. One is your own unique ability and growing unique ability teamwork to handle the growth. But that also means that you don't have to work as much. You can cut your actual work time down by as much as half. And that half that you free up in the first instance goes to restoring balance in your life. And that happens as soon as you want it to happen when you come into Strategic Coach. If you want to find out how to get balance in your life, then you go right to our central concept, the secret sauce of Strategic Coach, which is a concept called Who Not How. And it would be who not how both for your business life and who not how for your personal life. And you can get the free download of a book, 2-hour audio, and a 45-minute video simply by going to whonothow.coach.